athletes afterwards. So we'll get through as much as we can, as quick as we can. And our first question, please identify yourself and your agency. Coach, first question, far left towards the door. Far left, really hard left. There you go.
Hey, Coach, Aaron Beard with the Associated Press based out of Raleigh. I'm curious what role you see the NIL changes, how that fits into the world of recruiting, how much you've thought about how you may use that in a pitch when you're trying to get an athlete to come to Clemson.
I don't see it changing a whole lot as far as what we do. The goal of our program is graduating young men, developing great men, equipping them with tools for life, making sure they have a good experience and win a championship. And that's been that way since 2009, and I don't see that changing one bit. This is just another one of those tools that we have to help come alongside and equip them with. We've been doing Paul Journey for 12 years, and Paul Journey is a curriculum, and it has been for a long time. We've been doing financial literacy, agent education, all these things for 12 years. And there's a couple other pieces we need to add to that. We've got internal teams, external teams. We've made it as easy as we can possibly make it. The biggest thing is help them, educate them, equip them, and help them navigate any opportunities that some of them may have. And so, like I said, the goal, the target has not changed at all. I think kind of like a bowling alley right here, if we all know what we're trying to do, as a program, we got to kind of be the bumpers, so that we can make sure they hit the target, because these are young people, and this is a different dynamic, and, easy for maybe some of them to lose focus on maybe the long term and get distracted maybe by the short term. So our job is to educate, equip, help them navigate, make sure they got every resource that they could possibly need, and make sure we hit the long-term target that we're all
Coach, right side about midway up. Just, sir, if you stand, thank you.
Cortland Griffin, the three-point conversion. Coach, you were a little apprehensive about the NIL at first. It seems that your sentiments have changed, but you are one of the top programs in the nation. How can you elaborate on how you're going to help players, or if players, your players that you currently have on the roster, want to approach other companies, or companies approach them, how you're going to facilitate that? Yeah, well,
I've never been apprehensive about NIL. That's not the story. People hear what they want to hear, and then they write what they want to write, and then people believe what they want to believe. So my comments were, I'm against the professionalization of college athletics. Always have been, always will be. I'm for education, graduating and equipping young people through the game of football for life. It's what it's always been about for me. It's what it's always going to be about in college football. This has not changed the collegiate model. This just is common sense. So to say that is inaccurate. All right, this is common sense. If a young guy wants to go do an autograph signing, if a guy wants to go back and do a camp in his hometown, I worked all through college. There was never a day I didn't work on my time. I cleaned gutters, umpired, cut grass, sold Cutco knives. I worked nonstop all through college. And for our kids to not have the opportunity to work on their time, I've never agreed with that. That's a common sense thing to me. I would have liked more to have been done through the scholarship, to be quite honest with you, because then everybody could participate. NIL is going to be for some, not for everybody. But we can't facilitate. We can educate, we can navigate, we can equip. We've got an entire educational library. July 1 didn't just get here and go, okay, we'll figure this out. This has been something that we've been prepared for a long time and built for, like I said, through our Paul Journey program for 12 years. So appreciate your question, but the beginning of it's not accurate.
Coach, right in front of you, first row.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Coach, you have never shied away of being a strong man of faith and publicly speaking on that. What has this past year and a half taught you, and how do you use it as a leader?
what has it taught me? I think just a even more deeper appreciation for life, for family, for the ability to do what you love to do with people that you love doing it with, the little things, I mean, just a deeper appreciation for that. I think it's more than anything, but most of all that hey, God's still on the throne, it's my word last year was faith, and I had no idea. I don't ever know why my word is my word, but last year it was faith, and certainly grew in my faith through this past year, and thankful that I've got a God that is there all the time and available 24/7, and has paved the path for all of us.
Coach to the right side here in the second row.
Joe Hughes, Gaston Gazette. You got some good news over the summer. Justin Foster's coming back. How happy are you to have him back on your defense, and how's his progress?
He's doing great, and which is why he came back. And I tried to talk him out of it in January. Just say, let's just, why don't we let's just give it some time here. But he was ready to get out. He had a job. He was ready to kind of go. And but in May he called me and said, Coach, is there a chance I could still come back? I feel great. He'd been training, he'd been running, and things had turned around for him, and absolutely, so he's just a great young man. He's one of the most respected guys on our team. Incredibly smart. He's a graduate. He is a tough, hard-nosed football player, and so he just brings invaluable depth and experience and leadership to that position. So with him back, we have 5 starters at defensive end, and just really, thankful. And I'm happy for him, to be able to, end his career, and he's a guy that'll have a chance to play at the next level. So to be able to see him just kind of get back to a good place, because it was a really hard year for him. And so I'm thankful and grateful that he is where he is now.
We're going to stay on the right side. This time we're going to go all the way to the back of the room. David, if you would please stand. Thank you.
Dabo, David Teal with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Did you attend Jack Swarbrick's playoff presentation last night? And if so, did it allay or perhaps even affirm some of the concerns you voiced to your local media the other day?
Well, yeah, I was there, and man, he did a phenomenal job. And I will say this, the 4 people that, I can't remember who all it was, but the 4 people who I guess authored it and put the presentation together and spent 2 years, just trying to study and come up with something and research, take the charge that had been given to them, I guess, by the presidents or the committee or whatever. They did a phenomenal job, but no, it doesn't change my stance at all. And again, my opinion, it doesn't mean anything, because that train's left the station. I think sitting around and talking about what this coach thinks or that coach is a waste of time at this point. I think expansion of the playoff is inevitable. I think the conversation needs to be, how do we get it right for the player? End of the day, how do we save the bowls? I think we're past the point of, not that that's a foregone conclusion that it's 12 teams or whatever. I think there's a long way to go and a lot of conversation to be had on what's going to happen. But I think expansion is going to be inevitable, and money's driving that, and I assume that's what the fans want. But I think most importantly, what do the players want? And, to ask these guys to have to show up earlier, to have no open dates, to have no break between a championship game and another game, to play more games, I don't think that may be what's best for the money, maybe what's best for the fans. I don't think that's what's best for the player. And, that's my opinion. Nothing changes. So I think if we're going to expand, I think you should talk about the season as well. Maybe you go to 11 games instead of asking these guys to play more. And having been there to say, I can just visualize being in Tampa after beating Alabama with 1 second on the clock, and then being out there at Levi Stadium, and you've been in a championship game, you've been in a playoff game, you've been in a national championship game, and now you sit there and you look at these guys and say, all right, guys, we got one more, and you're just spent. I mean, you're exhausted. What it takes at that level, and when people say, well, it's just one more game, to me that is a total lack of appreciation for what it takes to win a game, to prepare for a game, to play in a game of that magnitude. Because when you get to that level, you're talking about the best of the best, the elite of the elite, and these guys all have, at that level, they have NFL aspirations, and a lot of them are going to play in the NFL. So, you got combines, you got a lot going on, and, so I think there's a lot of discussion. It was a fantastic presentation. He did an awesome job. But again, we'll play whatever system, whatever rules we got. I was not for a 4-team playoff, so it's not like anything has changed for me. I just want the players to be considered in that, and we should not ask more of the player, in my opinion.
Coach, your last question will come right up the center aisle to the right.
Coach Swinney, Richmond Weaver, WSC and Rich Take on Sports. And why is it so important for you to bring back former players like the recent news of Taj Boyd joining your staff and what they bring to your staff?
Well, I mean, Clemson is Clemson family. We've talked about that from day one. We built our program, and I love being able to give a former player opportunity where it's warranted. It's been cool to see so many guys pursue coaching. I got another one right over here that's going to be, he's like Pete Rose this year. He's player coach. But Skowski's going to be a coach whenever he's done. And I love being able to nurture that. I love giving former players opportunities. I think there's nobody more invested in your program than those who've, put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. And so, all the way from Tony Elliott, who I coached, who was a captain for me, and I think we've got 22 former players that are either full-time coaches, coordinators, Paul Journey, strength conditioning, player development, analysts, whatever it may be, and I think their perspective is priceless. They've lived it. They've done it, and most all of them played for me, and so I'm not here if it wasn't for the player. And so for me to be able to give a guy an opportunity that played for me is a big deal. I'm also here because Gene Stallings gave me the opportunity. He gave me, he could have given that opportunity to a lot of people, but he gave the opportunity to me. Because I had played for him for 3 years. I had been a GA for him for 3 years. And then boom, he hired me full time after that. But without that opportunity to be that graduate assistant, that opportunity to learn under him and to come in and work, I'm probably not standing here for sure. So to me, I love giving former players the opportunity and, again, the perspective that they bring to your team.
Coach, thank you. We'll ask you to switch places with Matt. Matt, if you would come on up. Folks, same routine. Even though you may have identified yourself with Coach, please make the same introduction to our student athletes. Identify the agency that you're with. So we're going to start left side. Taylor, gentleman, about midway through. And Matt, as we get the microphone over there, we'll get started.
Hey, Matt, it's David Hood with TigerNet.com. Coach Swinney said he would hate to ask you guys to play another game. You've been through the grind of playing 15 games. How would you feel about expansion and having to keep going as a player?
I would say I definitely share Coach Swinney's sentiment that I don't necessarily feel comfortable adding another game. I think that if we're going to talk about expansion of the playoff, we also need to consider shortening the regular season. As you mentioned, as an offensive lineman, when you start getting up to 14, 15 games, that's quite a few snaps, especially given the situation we were presented with last year with a lack of depth. The snaps add up quickly, and that's some wear and tear on your body that's hard to describe. And I'm not here to get anyone's pity, but it's much easier said than done, and so that's where I stand.
Matt, right in front of you, first row.
Matt, Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. The offensive line this season, just what you can say going into 2021, your assessment of the line at this point as you get set.
First thing I'd like to say is that our offensive line has had an incredible summer. The competition that I've witnessed from our group is unmatched during my time here at Clemson. I think that the energy of the young guys, coupled with the experience of myself, Jordan McFadden, and Will Putnam, I think we're in store for a special year. I think that really all needs to come to fruition here in camp in a couple weeks, but I know we'll be well prepared heading into play Georgia, given the fact that we get to compete against an elite defensive line every day in practice.
Matt, a question here from the podium, a bit on the lighter side. You've got 1,352 career snaps. Is there one that you remember most, and is there one that you would like to forget?
I'm going to go ahead and couple those as the same one. And when we played Alabama in San Francisco for the national championship, the 2018 season, John Simpson's helmet got knocked off in, I believe, the first or second quarter. And let's just say I did not anticipate to actually play in that game. And I go out, run my happy butt out there in the first quarter of the national championship game and line up against future top 5 pick Quinnen Williams. And safe to say I did not run the play correctly. And I came out the next play. So that's how she rolls sometimes.
So who would like to follow up that question from the room? Not seeing none, I'll ask you here. Is there a different approach in blocking assignments when there are different quarterbacks at different points in the game?
I'm not sure that I would say there's a different approach. I think that different quarterbacks bring different strengths to the field. At Clemson, we're lucky enough to have pretty talented quarterbacks as of late. So we just kind of try to do our job and make sure their jersey stays clean. But we're very fortunate, obviously, the past couple years having Trevor Lawrence, this year's #1 overall pick, and now moving into this year with my good buddy DJ over there. We're in pretty good hands. So as long as we take care of our business, then they can take care of theirs.
Thank you. We've got one more, Matt, for you, and we will end where we started with you. To the left.
David Hood again.
Hey, David.
Talking about DJ there, I noticed you guys out yesterday together riding the scooters. Has he already kind of taken that, you're already out protecting him out on the city streets, and, what kind of voice does he have in the huddle with you guys?
Well, I don't know if he needs me protecting him on the city streets. He's a pretty big guy, but DJ has come in and just been a steady worker, and he's got great confidence and poise for a young guy. Obviously, we saw what he could do last year on the field when he was kind of forced to step in, and he performed exceptionally well. So we all know how DJ is as a player, but he's an even better guy, and we enjoy being around him. For me, being a guy going into my 5th year, I certainly respect him, and I know that I can speak for my teammates when I say that. So we're really looking forward to having DJ with the keys to the offense this year, and I know that he's going to have our backs just like we'll have his.
Matt, thank you. We will switch places with James now.
Thank you.
James, as we get comfortable, we will scan the room and ask our participants here who would like the first question today. All right, James, so from the podium here, you had 5 weeks between games mid-season last year. Did that affect the team in any positive way, any negative way? What about the rhythm and that disruption?
I think it, with you got guys like Trevor going out and DJ having to step in, when you got key pieces to your team that miss some time, it allows young people to step in. So overall, I think it helped us ultimately, and gave some guys more experience in some crucial times later in the year.
We get ready for your second question. If you take about a half step closer to the podium, thank you.
Bob Holliday, WRL.com.
To your left.
Over here. James, people are quite accustomed to player turnover at Clemson. Great ones go on to the NFL, and great new ones take their place. Your defense this year is unusual in that you hardly lost anybody. What are your expectations for your unit this year?
It's the same every year. It's play good team defense, be in the top 5 in most of the categories. But for me this year, I just want to see all 3 levels, playing together. I think last year was just a little dysfunctional at times, and I think we have all the things we need to glue it all together and have a great defense.
James, to your right, far right here in front of me.
Joe Hughes, Gaston Gazette. As you talked about those defensive pieces and the continuity, one of those key pieces on the back end, Landon Sanders, what have you kind of seen from him in the offseason, and what do you kind of expect from him?
Very unique guy in his athleticism, real bendy, unique tackler too, great in open field. We're real deep, across the board everywhere. But Landon's a guy who just puts in work, keeps his head down, stays quiet, and just does his job. So I think another year, I think he was battling injury a little bit, so a whole another year in the weight room. I think you'll see a completely different player this year.
James, follow the center aisle, third person to your left.
Hey, Gary McDaniel, Clemson Sports News. James, can you tag on what the coach said about you in your career as a coach, and what has influenced you to take that decision?
I just show up every day, and I am in love with what I do. And when you get old like me, you start to think about, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And I'm getting to that point, and I just can't think of my life without the game of football or sports in some way. Maybe I'm not the next Coach V or Coach Swinney, but in some form or fashion, I'll be around this game, and that's how I see it. It's something I love, and I can't get enough of it, so I gotta have it.
James, still on the left side, about the fifth row. He's about to stand up for us, please. Thank you.
Hey, James, Zach Wagner with TigerNet. Not many people get to say they played 6 years of college football. So with that being said, how excited are you to get the season started, especially against Georgia?
I'm very excited. It truly is the last one, so I got to go out with a bang. But we usually end our regular season in Charlotte, so it's a pretty cool experience getting to play a team the caliber of Georgia, in a place where luckily we're familiar with. But it's exciting, and we're happy we get that caliber of opponent so that we can, hopefully, prove some people wrong.
James, I think we're good. Thank you. Let's switch places with DJ.
Appreciate you guys.
DJ will get the last word really here in 2021 for the kickoff event. So what we're going to do, DJ, is we're going to bring it right in front of you here in the first row.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. DJ, for you last season, the couple games that you got to get into when Trevor was out due to COVID protocol, just what your takeaways are to go back to that film and what you can say about stepping into this season as the true leader.
Some things I would definitely say was definitely true blessing to be able to get some starts into the game last season. I got a whole week of preparation, becoming a starting quarterback, so be able to get into that Notre Dame film. And there's definitely a lot of things I could take from last season. I learned a lot backing up Trevor, seeing the way he runs the field, see the way he just treats off the field too. This is how he's a true definition of a professional in my eyes. That's why I feel like Trevor I could take from him last year and then learning from the different games. So there's a lot of stuff that I'll be taking from him and taking from my own experiences.
You can adjust, that's fine.
Yeah.
So right side in the red shirt.
DJ, Cortland Griffin, the three-point conversion. What do you feel like, piggyback off of that, with Trevor Lawrence leaving, you now being the signal caller, what do you bring that's unique from Trevor in your skill set?
Some things I feel like it's definitely unique is that I think I'm a little bit bigger, like heavier than Trevor, about 250 pounds. I feel like that might be something, might be a little bit more unique. But overall, I don't think Trevor does a lot of great things, but I feel like our games are a little bit similar. I like to throw the deep ball a lot. I like to see how far I can throw it in the game. So that might be one big thing. But I feel like for the most part, there's not a lot of differences. But we both like to play football.
DJ, we're going to go on the left side, the very back row. He's standing up right now.
Tyler Everett, SBJ. Can you tell me about your approach to the opportunities via NIL in general, and specifically the deal announced yesterday with Bojangles, and how you got into Bojangles, and if that was a recent discovery for you?
No, definitely. Bojangles is definitely a recent discovery. California, we don't have Bojangles down there. So remember one thing coming down here to the South, one thing I definitely learned was that Jesus is number one here, and then it goes football, and then it goes down. People love Bojangles down here, so that's one big thing. So with my approach with the NIL is that I don't want it to be, I signed with a marketing agency with Vayner Sports, with AJ Vaynerchuk and Gary Vee. The whole idea of that was to make sure that my goal is to be, I want to be a student athlete. So school comes first, I want to graduate. I want to be a football player second, and I want to make sure all my focus is in those two. And then my off time, I could have people worry about my NIL and branding and stuff like that. So that's how I'm treating the NIL.
DJ, still on the left side, about midway.
Hey, DJ, David Hood with TigerNet. As Zach mentioned, in 6 weeks or so, you're going to be a few blocks away in Bank of America Stadium going against Georgia. College game day will be there, but you've played big games. You had games against Mater Dei, against Bryce Young, the big comeback, the state championship last year at Notre Dame, comeback. How do you feel like all of those experiences will prepare you for walking into that stadium on September the 4th against another top 5 program?
I think all those experiences will definitely help out. I mean, playing in big games, high school played in a lot of big games. It's nowhere near the magnitude of the game we're about to play with a full capacity stadium. I think high school only played in front of 15,000. But I mean, I like big games. I like the big moments. It doesn't really get me too nervous, and I like playing. We're going to play a great team in Georgia. You know, I'm just super excited about to be able to play them in Charlotte.
DJ, almost right next to him in the same area.
Hey, DJ, Zach Wagner with TigerNet. Last year you said you came to Clemson to sit behind Trevor Lawrence and learn from him like Aaron Rodgers did with Brett Favre. What exactly did you learn from Trevor last year that you can take into this year?
There's a bunch of stuff, but I think the one thing I'll touch on is that how to become a true professional of the game and a game off the field. That the way Trevor handled different things off the field, with how he dealt with media or how he dealt going around town, where he couldn't be like himself. He had to uphold to a Clemson quarterback where he couldn't do maybe the normal things that a regular college athlete or college student could do. He couldn't go down to Chipotle and go get some food, or it would turn into like an autograph session. So just different things like that. That's different things I took about how to become a true professional of the game.
DJ, your last question is going to come here to the right in front of me.
Joe Bombo, Sports Map Radio. This isn't much of a question, but with you getting that new Bojangles deal, I would really look forward to having a big Cinco meal deal, you know, or $5 chicken supreme box if you want to consider that.
Yes, sir. That would be a super cool thing. I think that would definitely work. I have to talk to Bojangles about that.
2021 is certainly different, folks. We appreciate it, DJ. Clemson, thank you very much. Folks, that's going to put a wrap on it here in the press conference room. We appreciate your attendance.